Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow Podcast. We are so happy that you're here. I'm Ashley, your host through the monthly grain segment of this podcast, brought to you by the Landus Growth Solutions Center. So today on the podcast, we're going to be chatting about a service here at Landus that we certainly offer, and honestly, feels like we've put a ton of resources into over the last year, especially. So today I'm chatting with Reese Drenth. You've met Reese multiple times on the podcast. And I'm also chatting with Savannah Carroll here today. So Reese is one of the merchandisers here at Landus and merchandises grain really throughout our trade area now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then Savannah is a strategic dispatcher. So Savannah, go ahead and tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been with Landus for 4 years and just recently took on the role of being strategic dispatcher. So with a focus on-farm grain pickup. So really targeting the people that desperately need trucks during harvest and how we can help execute harvest as a whole.
Okay, well, Reese, before we get way too far into the weeds on strategic dispatching and all that stuff, can you give us the market update?
Yeah, markets are trying to rally here on corn anyway. Beans are up nicely. Last week they finished up 40, 45 cents. They're up another 10, 15 cents today. Mainly what's going on there is we've had a huge break in the U.S. dollar. If you've been watching markets for the last couple months, the U.S. dollar has been moving up on all sorts of uncertainty, whether it be Middle East uncertainty or U.S.-China relations uncertainty, etc. But a break in the dollar means that all of our exports, whether it be corn, beans, wheat, cattle, pigs, whatever, they're more competitively priced now versus the rest of the world. And that's because when you transact with the United States, you transact in U.S. dollars. So if the value of that dollar is less, the value of your commodity is less on the global market. So that's been nice. We did see some corn and bean export sales reported here this morning, probably because of the break in the dollar. So hopefully we get some more of that. We do have a USDA report coming out Thursday this week. WASDE, so supply and demand numbers. It is not anticipated that there'll be much change month over month, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, always a good opportunity to work offers, right? Ahead of a WASDE.
Oh yeah, best time.
I always love last night, before I went to bed. We're recording this the Monday before it releases, just for reference. But Sunday night open's always kind of a mystery during harvest, a little bit. And so last night, as we were cleaning up the kitchen and all the things, my phone is just ding, 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 and I can see all of the offers getting triggered, which is always really fun.
No, it's a good feeling. The farmers are rewarding the market.
Yeah,
so.
Just a reminder to our customer base, you can work an offer. They're really, really great when, we have a huge market report react, but also I'm probably not going to answer my phone for you at Sunday night at 7 p.m. or whatever. So.
No, but you can use the portal if you want to.
Correct.
Yep.
Put your offer in.
Yep.
Okay, well, diving back into kind of our conversation for today. So we're going to be really talking about, as I mentioned before, kind of that push into on-farm grain pickup and the importance of it and kind of some of the things that we've done here in the last year to make that a huge priority for Landus. So we've always done this, at least in my experience here. I think this is about to be my 5th winter here. And so always have had on-farm pickup in my experience, but definitely it feels like putting a huge emphasis on as we move forward. So I think certainly the 3 of us have felt the impact of the things that we have done over the last 60 days. We're kind of just getting out of harvest for the most part. It feels like a lot of guys are wrapping up. We still have some customers going. But Reese, when you think about merchandising grain, and obviously from my perspective, then originating that grain for you to merchandise, let's talk about the importance of this service. Why does the farmer need us? Why would he call us?
Well, the farmer's growing. Just like Landus is growing, just like Walmart is growing, whatever. Farmers are growing. And it's likely that as farmers grow, the area in which they grow gets further and further away from the home bin site or, home base. And so it's important that as farmers, expand their territory, their geography, they have a logistics plan to harvest that grain. Otherwise, you can spend a lot of time and a lot of money messing around trying to get that either back to the home place or, maybe not the best market out in the middle of nowhere, depending on where the field is. So as the farmer grows, someone needs to solve a logistics problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
The further away you get, probably the more trucks you need to efficiently, move that grain back home or to an elevator or the market, etc. So the service we're providing is a harvest logistics service. It's putting butts in seats, managing those butts in the seats, which is, not everyone's most joyous activity at managing people, let alone, harvest trucks at the time of year that they are the busiest and there's the most demand for them. And then also keeping the combine running. As a farm kid, there's nothing worse than the butt chewing you receive if the combine is sitting. And so, how you maximize yield, how you maximize your time during the fall is you keep the combine going. And, we're very focused on providing that service for the grower, again, as they keep expanding.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Like we've talked about this a lot this fall. It's not just that the farmer doesn't have their own truck capacity, because I think that's the first thing is people are like, well, don't farmers have trucks? Why would you need to provide that service, right? Sure, that's certainly the case sometimes. But it's often that the farmer doesn't have labor, XYZ, he's farther away, he's grown too large to, be able to service that aspect. And you're completely right. One of the things that Savannah and I do while we're lining up these trucks is, okay, if a customer has this model of combine, he has this big of grain cart, how many trucks do we need? How many bushels an hour? On a great day, is he going to harvest? How many trucks do we need to make that filter? Because that's a phone call that we don't like to get is, all my wheels are full. The combine's full, the grain cart's full. Where are you?
Yeah, I think it's important to touch on all the different scenarios. So, we service all of our growers. Some people that have 0 trucks, some people that have a couple trucks, some people that just need a couple trucks from us just to finish your harvest. So, the service isn't limited to who you are or what you already have.
Oh, yeah.
We're here to provide success for you as well. So,
yeah. And I think, obviously we're probably talking a lot in reference to harvest, but certainly we wanted to go ahead and put this episode out as we start thinking about off-farm grain out of harvest. We probably have more capacity then to be able to take on some jobs of, hey, if you've got stuff in bags because your harvest was so great, or, you're ready to get some bin cores out, we have availability. And yeah, exactly. No matter if you need a truck or 2 or whatever we can help you with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important, as we approached the end of summer and worked on getting our elevators empty to prepare for harvest, instead of the grower bringing the bushels to us and then us having to move it again, it was easier for us to provide the truck. It's not a headache for them. We can just go get the grain and take it where we want.
So talk about that. And I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but oftentimes, if we're talking to a customer about farm pickup, we'll sometimes talk FOB or FOB, right? And so I always say it's on our wheels. Like we'll take it to the best home. And Reese, I don't know if you want to jump in, right? But that is the beauty for us, right, of having an on-farm pickup service is we are able to then pick that grain up and then direct that grain to the best market at that point.
Yeah, and sometimes that might be a Landus elevator, truck or rail hub, depending on where the market is. But post-harvest, trucking can also be challenging too. I mean, it might be as simple as the truck's parked behind a few other implements in the shed, and you might not want to get it out, right?
Yeah.
So no, that is an area that we're looking at growing here this year and in years to come. And to your point, it's all about getting the grain to the right market. And sometimes that market, is a little further away than, what guys are interested in hauling in, or, sometimes they might have a truck on it, but they might want to get the bin core knocked out this week instead of taking it into next week or whatever. And in the same light as where, our trucks helping the farmer can help you or help the farmer at harvest, can also help post-harvest. Time isn't free by any means. So
Savannah, talk a little bit. We've talked about, over the last year, there's been a really big push on this. So give us kind of a little bit of an insight on, what have we done? Talk about first maybe getting, as Reese mentioned, butts in seats.
Yeah. So in the past, we always just hired any truck we could get, right? And we were finding that did not provide the best service to the grower or to us, truly. And so a big initiative this year was to go out and find the local people that aren't driving an hour to get to the field to start their day or driving an hour home. So we had a big push on finding who the local people are, finding people that would commit to us to make sure that we could provide the service. And then also, on the other hand, hiring people to put in an extra 15 Landus trucks, because it's just a level of service. And it's we always joke that, that is our best billboard, is the truck in the field. So, who can we find that's local to pair with our Landus trucks to make sure that we provide the best service to these people?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then kind of, the process, right? I mean, you work and other people like you work with, originators like myself. We have farmers calling all the time, and I always kind of create a wait list in the off season if it is for harvest, right? I always know that John Doe wants 2 trucks every single year. You kind of get familiar with your trade area, but then, if you're a farmer listening thinking, hey, I've got a son or daughter that's maybe headed off to college and they were able to truck for me, or, I think that happens a lot of, hey, my labor is tied up doing XYZ. I'm going to need help this year. Get on the list, call us. It's never too early to get on that list.
It is never too early. Yeah, the more we know, the earlier the better, as always. I'm a pretty big planner by nature, so it's easier to get an idea of what you want, get an idea of where we think we'll take that grain, and kind of what you run and what things look like. And then we try to be as efficient, with our trucks to provide the best service for you. So
yeah. And then talk a little bit about, I don't know if you have some numbers or things like that, but just, how we've expanded this year with this project.
Yeah. So in the past, we did not have this position. This is a new position. So, if we had a grower that went into different areas, we threw them with different dispatchers, and we found that did not provide the best service. So one of the cool things about my position is no matter where you're at in the state, there's a good chance I'm providing the truck for you. So, and with that, we've seen a 20% growth from grain off the farm. And, I think at marketing perspective, we've been smarter about where we're taking things and how we market this grain. And I think that kind of ties back in with, we have some facilities that are shuttle loaders and some that aren't. So if we have the opportunity and it's on our truck, we can bypass some areas that are not shuttle loaders and take it to where we need to go.
Yeah. I mean, that grain is ultimately probably going to end up at a rail loader, right? In a Landus facility, potentially. And so I think that was the point earlier about the FOB bid, right? Is if we can prevent that just to go from going to a truck house, if there's room at the rail loader, right? That's the ultimate goal. It's the more you touch a bushel, probably the less profitable that bushel becomes. So I guess, talking more about this, I think it's interesting, and I think we need to talk about, why is this important? Why is this initiative really important? Kind of, we've put a huge emphasis on this last year of, Savannah, you taking kind of this new role and this strategic dispatcher. And yeah, just to be clear, we do have kind of dispatchers on our Landus territory is kind of divided east and west. And so we have dispatchers on both of those regions, but you are completely separate. So, as you mentioned, Savannah kind of filters throughout the state, working with kind of some of our strategic accounts that are just in different areas. And so it's provided such a really seamless, I think, experience for our customers. But Reese, talk a little bit about this service is definitely a lot of work for us to provide. So chat more about that, as we think about, this is a lot of time and effort. So chat more about that.
Yeah, I mean, a few different variables go into that statement of, picking up grain off the farm it can be challenging. First and foremost, like Savannah mentioned, trucks are hard to find. I think the farmer feels that. I think not only from a person that drives a truck, but truck availability. I think Landus and I was in some meeting earlier a month ago where you might be able to pick up on this a little easier, but don't we have 15 trucks that may or may not get built in the next year because of the UAW or United Auto Workers strike or something like that?
Yep. Max on shutdown.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, butts in seats and also supply of a new truck freight, make that challenging. But it does take a lot of time and effort. And, I think Landus, by creating Savannah's position, I guarantee you, I'll go out on a limb and say 95% of the co-ops in Iowa and 95% of the private grain companies, they do not have a strategic dispatcher in charge of leading growth of on-farm pickup. We feel like that's an opportunity. We feel like that's an opportunity as the farmer grows, which they will, and as we grow. We also feel like the amount of money and time we're putting into improving our existing assets and building new assets in our trade territory will only enhance the success of this initiative. When you've got the right amount of trucks to keep the combine moving efficiently, and the combines keep getting bigger, the grain carts keep getting bigger, and you need your scale-to-scale time to speed up, you need your receiving capacity to speed up. We feel like we're positioned very well for the farmer of the future as they grow, and also to service our existing and loyal customers as well, no matter the size.
Yeah.
Any impact we can have positively on the efficiency of our farmers, especially at the fall and post-harvest too, is money in their pocket.
Okay.
And one of the larger growers that I work with on farm pickup, they put it like that. They said, we view trucks out of the field as a way for us to grow. It's logistics we don't have to mess with. It's very efficient. In this case, they're not necessarily interested in putting up bin space because 5 years down the road, the bin space could be obsolete compared to what John Deere, monster combine comes out next. So it does put some risk into Landus's seat, but I think we're in very capable hands with Savannah and our dispatch team, our logistics team. And like I said, I think we're very well positioned to keep expanding and, putting money in the farmer's pocket.
And I think, like, as you mentioned, and you brought up a really good point, is we've talked about this a few episodes back as we were talking about our infrastructure kind of plans, and capital announcements kind of that we made last year. I think probably gone are the days where there's an elevator every 5-10 miles, right? Which is really how I grew up. So I think, you're going to see more kind of hub, like a Mitchellville, like a Pleasant Hill, like a, kind of those larger locations. So yeah, how do we provide the farmer service if he can't deliver, maybe tractor wagon like he was used to, like Dad did, like Grandpa did? How do we, continue to help that farmer farm?
Yeah, I think that's a good example there. I mean, there's plenty of instances where, there's been elevators, ours, and, different companies across the state who are not able to operate anymore. And those growers, they might not have semis. They might just be tractor wagon people, and they might feel hung out to dry. And we've been able to pick up their grain during the fall and provide them with that service. And, that's a way to keep their logistics moving too, especially if the elevator down the road isn't able to operate anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and Reese, you kind of touched base on the efficiencies, but just, I think often farmers are like, well, I want 3 trucks, but we're finding that it's not cost effective to have the trucks sit in the field for, 20, 30 minutes at a time. And so, what they request is kind of how we push back. And I know, Ashley, you touched on this of just, what size of combine do you have?
Yeah,
where are we taking it? But I think that is a big aspect of what I do that, probably doesn't get talked about a lot is how can I make this the most efficient thing for not only us, but for them as well. And then on the flip side too of, how often are there breakdowns or rain days? You never know what you're going to get. And so from the farmer's perspective, it's a little frustrating to sit in the field with trucks that they've hired themselves with breakdowns. Whereas our perspective and something that we can touch, any Landus location. So we can send those trucks to wherever we need to go for an hour or 2 hours or whatever that looks like.
And that doesn't cost the farmer.
Right.
It would if he was running those trucks.
Right. So, I think Efficiency is in my job description.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. And I think like it's part of, here at Landus, we talk about agility a lot. And there are so many times that the farmer never even sees there's a problem, right?
Mhm.
Because you're fixing it, the location's fixing it. We're trying to just recreate, if a leg goes down somewhere, right? The farmer might not even know that. The
Yeah.
truck just goes to a different elevator, comes back. It's sometimes funny when I get a call and saying, why did corn go to, I don't know, some location? I thought it was supposed to go to Britt, or I thought it was supposed to go to, Mitchellville. And it's like, oh, well, they had something go wrong that day. So we just rerouted it, no cost to you. No basis change. It's just, we had to do what we had to do to keep you moving.
Yep, for sure.
I think the other really kind of interesting, point that you were talking about is, and I think in your role specifically, you've taken a lot of pressure off of our originators, especially with our strategic accounts. I have felt this fall, right? Like I've had so much more time to originate rather than try to manage fleet. And so I think it's not only seamless for the grower to only call you, but it's also super seamless for our origination team to worry less about getting trucks to the field and to the right place and to the right time. And then, kind of ponytail this chain all the way back to you, where now the customer is just truly calling you, right? And so it sounds really stupid and simple, but it took us a couple years to get there, I think, and realize that the farmer just wants one point of contact, especially when it comes to this logistics issue.
Yeah, and I think with anything in logistics, communication is major, right? And nothing's more frustrating than when a farmer breaks down and they call their originator, who then calls the dispatcher or a couple of dispatchers that's working on that, who then calls the, however many trucks are on them for the day. And with this, it's just one phone call, and I know exactly who's there. I can figure out, we've put GPS trackers in some of these trucks, so I can figure out who's where. Do they need to come back? Do they need to go home? Do they need to go somewhere else to transfer for an hour?
Yeah.
If this is a breakdown, however that is. But yeah, just one point of contact and then just clear communication, from the Landus side and also from the grower side.
Yeah. So talk a little bit, and we don't need to get truly in the weeds here, but talk a little bit more about that technology, right? We're working with Nationwide on that, but I think also the really cool thing, right? A lot of farmers are using a My John Deere, or I don't know, the case version of that, but I'm sure there's something, right? And all of those technologies help us really do a good job at this. And I know that there is so much trust that comes with, having us have access to different tools on your farm. But when we can see where you are harvesting exactly, how much % of that field you have left, how far that next field is completely to the next field, it is a game changer.
It is a huge game changer. Yeah, I don't think anybody recognizes, what all that takes. And I know, Ashley, I've reached out to you of, okay, where are we at? What are the miles to here and what are the miles to here? Because at the end of the day, it does come down to trucks. If we're going an extra 10 miles and there's a holdup for any reason or a breakdown at a location, that does cause the farmer to maybe sit, and that's not the goal. So, so not only having access to field information and, not necessarily through My John Deere, but just having a map and knowing where we're going, and where we want to take that grain, because we can sit and plan in July all day long that we want these fields to go to this location. But at the same time, if that location has something go down, we may have to pivot and go somewhere else. And that may require more trucks in the process. So, so having access to that has really helped. And then also, we worked with Nationwide and got some razor trackers. And I think people are skeptical about that. Every single Landus truck has a GPS and a forward-facing dash cam in it, but we don't have that access with owner-operators, whereas these razor trackers are something that they plug into their cigarette lighter. They can flip on and flip off. So if they're not working for the day, or, they're leaving the field and going home, I don't need to know where you park at night, flip it off, whatever. But it's super handy. The last loads of the day is huge. Knowing who's coming back, who's where, and that kind of thing. So those have been very helpful.
Okay. So to kind of wrap this episode up, I mean, I definitely want to give a shout out to you. You've done a phenomenal job this harvest, and to your counterparts as well. in the East and the West, Sean and Jared, and all of our, kind of localized dispatchers as well. You guys take on a lot of work and a lot of bread during fall that people forget about. So it's been a good fall, been a good run. If you are listening and thinking, again, hey, maybe I've got a son or daughter who was in a grain cart and now I need to ship my people around. I'm not going to have help to do that next year. Get on the list. You can do that. You can call the Grow number. You can go ahead and just reach out on the Contact Us page. I would say get in touch with us. Get on the list now, whether it's for December or next harvest. If you've got something in mind that you think that you could use our help on, let's be chatting now, because it is a logistical problem that we're trying to help you solve. And so the kind of further out that we know about that, the better. Anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, I don't eliminate this just to harvest.
Yes.
Let's do this year round. There's people that, well, Dad's in Arizona for the next month and I can only run one truck and, I want to get this bin empty. Call us. We're more than happy to help. So,
yeah. And obviously today we are truly just focused on grain. There is a whole agronomy dispatch service that I have no idea about, to be really honest. So we'll leave that for another time and place. But if you're interested in grain, help with on-farm trucking, we would love to help. It's definitely a huge initiative that we're going to continue to push here at Landus, and really happy to provide the customer service with. So thanks for listening. We hope that you join us on the next episode, and be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.